Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Easy English Spark channel. I'm thrilled to have you here today as we explore some exciting ways to enhance your English listening and speaking skills. In this video, we'll take a journey together through tips and strategies that will help you build your confidence, improve your fluency, and embrace the learning process. Because, as we know, learning a language is all about enjoying the journey. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your English skills to the next level, this is the place to be. Let's dive in and light up your English journey. Chapter 1. Introduction. A new journey begins. Hello, everyone. My name is Selena, and today I want to talk about something that's been incredibly important in my life: learning a new language, specifically English. I know for many of us, learning a new language can seem like a huge, overwhelming task. But trust me, it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, with the right approach, learning English can be an exciting and enjoyable journey. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say it will be easy. It won't. But that's okay. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to grow, and learning a language is one of the most rewarding things you can do. Whether you want to travel the world, improve your career, or connect with new people, learning English opens so many doors. But how do we even begin? That's exactly what I'm going to talk about today. I'm here to share my personal experience with you, to give you practical tips and tricks that helped me, and to guide you through this wonderful journey of learning English. I want to show you that learning English can actually be fun, and it can be easy. Yes, you heard me right, easy. But it all depends on how you approach it. I know, it sounds too good to be true, right? But let me assure you, it's not. When I first started learning English, I felt completely lost. I didn't know where to start, and I was honestly terrified. I was afraid to speak, afraid to make mistakes, and afraid of not being understood. But as I took one step after another, I started to see progress, even in small ways. And with each little success, I gained more confidence. That's when I realized the journey of learning English is not about perfection, it's about progress. So today, I'm going to take you through a few simple steps that can make this journey easier and more enjoyable. These steps helped me in my own learning process, and I believe they can help you too. Whether you're just starting out or you've been learning for a while, these tips will provide you with a fresh perspective and practical advice to keep you motivated. We'll talk about everything, from how to make listening to English part of your daily life, to how to build your speaking skills without fear of making mistakes. You'll learn about the importance of reading, writing, and even watching English videos. Most importantly, we'll talk about how to stay motivated throughout the process. Because let's face it, staying motivated is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to learning something new. Learning English isn't something that happens overnight. It's a journey, a process, and it takes time. But don't worry, I'm not going to leave you to figure it all out on your own. I'm going to walk you through everything I learned, share my experiences, and help you take the first step on your own English learning journey. By the end of this chapter, I hope you'll feel inspired to begin your own journey, or to continue it with renewed energy and motivation. Learning English can be challenging, yes, but it can also be incredibly rewarding. And trust me, the rewards are absolutely worth it. So, are you ready to get started? Let's dive in and explore how you can make learning English a part of your everyday life and turn it into something enjoyable and exciting. Chapter 2: The Power of Listening. Welcome to Chapter 2. Now that we've laid the foundation, it's time to dive into one of the most powerful tools for learning a new language: listening. I can't stress enough how important listening is when it comes to learning English. It's the starting point, the key to understanding the rhythm and flow of the language, and a great way to expose yourself to new words and phrases. When I first started learning English, I was so focused on trying to speak correctly and understand grammar rules. But I quickly realized that listening was just as important, if not more so. Without good listening skills, it's difficult to fully understand a language or use it effectively. So, in this chapter, I'm going to show you why listening is so essential and how you can use it to improve your English. Let's start with a little story from my own experience. When I was young and first began learning English, I had no idea where to start. I knew a few basic words, but when I tried to listen to people speaking in English, it was like listening to a foreign language completely. The words felt like they were flying past me, and I couldn't catch any of them. I felt overwhelmed and frustrated. But here's the thing, that's normal. Every learner goes through that stage. It's completely natural to feel like you're not understanding anything at first. But I didn't give up. Instead, I made a decision to listen every day, no matter how much or how little I understood. I started with simple stories, songs, and even cartoons. At first it was hard, and I couldn't pick up many words, but I kept listening. Slowly, things began to change. The more I listened, the clearer the words became, and the less confused I felt. Listening is a gradual process, and just like anything else, the more you practice, the better you get. It helps you absorb the language, learn how native speakers pronounce words, and understand how sentences are structured. For me, listening became a game changer. Let's break down why listening is so powerful. It helps you improve pronunciation. When you listen to native speakers, you begin to notice how words are pronounced. You pick up on the subtle differences in sounds, stress, and intonation that can make all the difference when you speak. For example, the way we say thank you in English can sound different depending on the speaker's accent or speed. If you only focus on reading or writing, you might miss out on these important nuances. But listening every day helps you become more familiar with how words should sound. It helps you learn new vocabulary. Listening exposes you to words and phrases you might not come across in textbooks. I remember hearing a phrase like "don't sweat it" when I was watching a show. At first, I had no idea what it meant, but by hearing it repeatedly and in context, I eventually understood that it meant, don't worry about it. That's the beauty of listening. It allows you to hear words used in real-life situations. And the more you listen, the more vocabulary you pick up without even realizing it. It helps you understand sentence structure and grammar. Grammar can be tricky, especially when you're learning a new language. But the good news is, you don't have to memorize every rule. By listening to native speakers, you start to absorb the structure of the language naturally. You'll start to notice how they form questions, how they use tenses, and when they use certain words. For example, I didn't really understand the difference between "I have been" and "I had been" until I heard them in conversations many times. Listening helped me understand grammar in a way that was much more practical than just memorizing rules from a book. It improves your ability to understand different accents and speeds. English is spoken all over the world, and depending on where you are, people may speak with different accents or at different speeds. At first, this can be very difficult to understand, especially if you're used to hearing one accent. But the more you listen to different types of English, the easier it gets. I remember when I first started listening to people from the UK, I struggled to understand their accent. But after listening regularly to British shows and podcasts, I became more comfortable with it. And then I noticed that when I listened to American or Australian English, I understood them much more easily too. 5. It helps you learn how to use words in context. One of the hardest things when learning a new language is understanding how to use words correctly. We often know the definition of a word, but using it in the right context is a different story. Listening gives you this crucial context. For example, the word seriously can be used in many ways. Sometimes to express surprise, other times to show that you're being sincere. By listening to how people use seriously in real conversations, I learned when and where to use it appropriately. So, how can you make listening a regular part of your learning routine? Start simple. If you're a beginner, don't jump straight into complicated conversations or fast-paced podcasts. Start with simple materials. You could listen to children's books or beginner podcasts. Cartoons and simple YouTube videos can be great places to start. Over time, as you get more comfortable, you can gradually increase the difficulty of what you're listening to. Ciao. Listen every day. The key to improvement is consistency. You don't need to spend hours listening every day, but try to make it a habit. Even 10 to 15 minutes a day can make a huge difference. For example, I used to listen to English podcasts while I was commuting or doing chores. That way, I was always exposed to English, even when I was busy with other things. Choose topics that interest you. The best way to stay motivated is by listening to things that you actually enjoy. Whether it's music, podcasts, movies, or TV shows, choose something that excites you. When you're passionate about a topic, you'll naturally want to listen more, and that makes the learning process easier and more enjoyable. Don't worry if you don't understand everything. When you listen to English, especially in the beginning, you won't catch every word, and that's perfectly fine. Don't stress out if you miss a word or don't understand a sentence. Instead, focus on the overall meaning and the words you do understand. Over time, your brain will start to fill in the gaps, and you'll begin to understand more and more. Repetition is key. The more you hear something, the better you'll understand it. If you hear a new word or phrase, try to listen to it multiple times. This will help you remember it and recognize it the next time you hear it. Use subtitles when necessary. If you're watching a TV show or a movie in English and you find it hard to follow, try using subtitles. But don't use subtitles as a crutch. Try to challenge yourself and see how much you can understand without them. Use subtitles only when needed and gradually reduce their use as your listening skills improve. Listen actively. Don't just passively listen to English. Engage with it. Try to repeat sentences or words after you hear them. This will help. You practice your pronunciation and improve your speaking skills too. In conclusion, listening is one of the most powerful tools you can use to learn English. It's essential for improving your understanding of the language, expanding your vocabulary, and becoming more comfortable with speaking. So, make listening a daily habit, enjoy the process, and watch your skills improve over time. Remember, you don't have to understand everything right away, but the more you listen, the easier it will get. I encourage you to start listening to something in English today, whether it's a podcast, a song, or a short video. And don't forget to listen every day. It may be challenging at first, but the more you listen, the more confident you will become. So, let's get started. Happy listening. Chapter 3. Practicing Every Day. Welcome to Chapter 3. Now that we've talked about the power of listening, it's time to focus on something that's just as important: practice. If listening is the foundation of learning a language, then practice is the action that helps you build on that foundation. You can listen to English every day, but if you don't practice using what you've learned, you won't improve as quickly as you'd like. Practice is where the magic happens. It's where you take everything you've learned, your vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation, and turn it into real, usable language. I remember when I was learning English, I used to be afraid of making mistakes. I thought that if I spoke English and made a mistake, people would judge me or think I wasn't capable of learning. But I quickly realized that making mistakes is part of the process. In fact, it's necessary. Every mistake I made taught me something new, and every time I practiced, I got closer to where I wanted to be. So in this chapter, I'm going to share with you why practicing every day is so crucial, and how you can build a consistent practice routine to improve your English skills. Why practicing every day matters. Let's start with the basics. Why is practice so important? Why can't I just learn vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation from books or videos and expect to be fluent? Well, here's the thing. Learning a language isn't just about knowing words and rules. It's about using those words and rules in real-life situations, and that's where practice comes in. When you practice, you turn what you've learned into something natural and automatic. It's like learning to ride a bike. You can read all the books about biking, watch videos of people riding bikes, or even listen to people talk about biking. But until you actually get on a bike and start riding, none of that will help you really understand how it works. The same goes for English. You have to practice speaking, writing, listening, and even thinking in English every single day. That's how you build confidence, get comfortable with the language, and start thinking in English naturally. The power of daily practice. In the beginning, it can feel overwhelming. There's so much to learn, and you might feel like you're not progressing fast enough. But don't let that discourage you. The key to becoming fluent in English is consistent practice. And even if you only have 15-20 minutes a day, that's enough. In fact, practicing every day is more effective than practicing for hours once a week. Small, consistent steps add up over time. I remember that when I first started, I didn't have a lot of time to practice every day, but I made it a habit. I would wake up 10 minutes earlier in the morning to read an article in English or listen to a podcast during my lunch break. Even if it was just a short time each day, it made a huge difference in the long run. Over time, I began to feel more confident, and I started to notice real improvements in my skills. Practical ways to practice every day. Now that we know why practice is important, let's talk about how you can practice every day. There are so many ways to incorporate English practice into your daily routine, and it doesn't have to be boring or stressful. Let's break it down into different areas of language learning. Speaking practice. Speaking is probably one of the most intimidating aspects of learning a new language. We often feel self-conscious about making mistakes, especially if we're speaking with native speakers. But remember, the only way to improve your speaking skills is to practice, practice, practice. When I started learning English, I didn't have many people around me to speak with, so I had to get creative. Here are a few ways you can practice speaking every day. Talk to yourself. Yes, you heard me right. Talk to yourself in English. It might feel a little strange at first, but it's a great way to practice. You can narrate your day, talk about your plans, or even describe things around you. By speaking out loud, you practice the words and phrases you've learned, and you get used to hearing your own voice speaking English. Find a language partner. If you can, find someone to practice with. This could be a friend who speaks English, a family member, or even someone you meet online. There are many websites and apps where you can find language exchange partners. Set up regular practice sessions where you talk to each other in English. Record yourself. Another great way to practice speaking is by recording yourself. You can record yourself reading a short passage or speaking about a topic for 1-2 minutes. Afterward, listen to the recording and see if you can spot any areas that need improvement. This will help you notice mistakes and track your progress. 2. Writing practice. Writing is another important skill to develop, and it's a great way to reinforce what you've learned. When you write in English, you're actively using the vocabulary and grammar you've studied. Plus, writing allows you to think more carefully about your word choices and sentence structure. Here are some ways you can practice writing every day. Keep a journal. One of the best ways to practice writing is to keep an English journal. Write about your day, your thoughts, your plans, anything. The more you write, the easier it becomes. Over time, you'll start to notice your writing improving as you use new words and structures. Write short stories. Challenge yourself to write short stories or descriptions. You can describe your favorite place, tell a story about something that happened to you, or even create fictional characters and situations. This will help you expand your vocabulary and practice forming complete sentences. Write emails or messages in English. Another great way to practice writing is to start writing your messages in English. Whether it's a text to a friend, an email to a colleague, or a comment on a social media post, try to write in English as much as possible. The more you practice, the better you'll get. Listening practice. Of course, listening is still an essential part of your daily practice routine. Try to listen to something in English every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. You can listen to podcasts, songs, news, or audiobooks, whatever works for you. As I mentioned before, consistency is key. Even if you can't understand everything at first, don't worry. Just keep listening, and over time, you'll start to catch more words and phrases. Try to listen to different accents and speeds of speech to challenge yourself and improve your understanding. Reading practice. Reading in English is another great way to improve your vocabulary and sentence structure. Start with simple books or articles and gradually move on to more complex texts as your skills improve. You can also try reading aloud to improve your pronunciation. Choose a passage, read it out loud, and try to mimic the way native speakers say the words. This will help you practice fluency and improve your confidence. Setting small goals. Setting small, achievable goals for yourself is a great way to stay motivated and track your progress. For example, you might aim to learn 5 new words a day or write a short paragraph in English every day. These goals give you something to work towards and help you measure how far you've come. The key to success. Consistency and patience. As I mentioned earlier, consistency is the key to improvement. You don't need to practice for hours every day. It's better to practice for a short time every day than to cram all your practice into one day a week. And remember, practice doesn't always have to be perfect. Some days, you might make a lot of mistakes, and that's okay. The important thing is that you're showing up every day and making progress. Mistakes are a part of the learning process, and each one is a chance to get better. So, I encourage you to make English practice a daily habit. Even if it's just for 15 minutes, find a way to incorporate it into your day. Over time, you'll start to notice the difference. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel to use English, and you'll be amazed at how much you improve. Chapter 4. The joy of reading. Welcome to Chapter 4. In this chapter, we'll explore one of the most rewarding and enjoyable ways to improve your English skills: reading. Reading is more than just a way to pass the time or gather information. It's one of the most effective ways to build your vocabulary, improve your grammar, and enhance your understanding of how the English language works. When I first started learning English, I didn't fully realize just how powerful reading could be. I was focused on speaking, listening, and writing. And while those skills are important, reading provided me with an entirely new perspective on language learning. It opened up doors to new worlds, whether it was understanding the structure of sentences, learning new words, or simply gaining insight into how native speakers express themselves. In this chapter, I'm going to share with you why reading is such a powerful tool in your language learning journey, how you can make it a daily habit, and how to choose the right materials to read at your level. By the end of this chapter, I hope you'll see reading not just as a learning tool, but as something that can bring joy and excitement to your English practice. Why reading is so important. Let's start with the basics. Why should you make reading a part of your daily language practice? Well, there are many reasons, but I'll start with a few key points that I found particularly helpful during my own journey. It expands your vocabulary. The most obvious benefit of reading is that it introduces you to new words. Every time you open a book, article, or even a simple blog post, you'll encounter words you might not have seen before. And the best part is, you encounter them in context, which makes it much easier to remember and understand how to use them. I remember when I first started reading in English, I would come across words that I didn't know. But instead of just looking them up right away, I tried to understand them based on the context of the sentence or paragraph. For example, if I didn't know the word adventure, I could guess its meaning from the way the characters in the story were talking about it. Over time, I started to see patterns in the words I was learning, and it became easier to recognize and use them in my own speech. It improves your grammar and sentence structure. Reading is an excellent way to improve your understanding of English grammar without having to memorize endless rules. By reading books or articles written by native speakers, you get a feel for how sentences are structured and how different grammatical rules come into play naturally. For instance, when I read a story, I would pay attention to how the author used different tenses like past tense, present perfect, or future tense. I would notice how questions were formed and how people used conjunctions like but, so, and because. By seeing grammar in action, I started to understand it better, and before I knew it, I was applying it to my own writing and speaking. It helps you learn new phrases and idiomatic expressions. English, like any language, is full of idioms and expressions that might not make sense if you translate them directly. For example, the phrase, "It's raining cats and dogs," doesn't mean animals are falling from the sky. It means it's raining heavily. When I started reading more in English, I began to recognize these idiomatic expressions, which helped me sound more like a native speaker. Reading stories, articles, and even dialogues exposes you to the way native speakers use these phrases naturally. And over time, you'll start to feel comfortable using them in your own conversations. Learning these expressions is not only fun, but also helps you sound more fluent and confident in your speech. 4. It enhances your understanding of culture and context. One of the most fascinating things about reading in English is that it provides a window into the cultures of English-speaking countries. Whether you're reading a novel, a news article, or even a social media post, you're learning not only the language, but also the customs, traditions, and ways of thinking that are a part of the language. For example, when I read books set in the US or the UK, I learned about the lifestyle, food, and social norms in these countries. I began to understand why certain phrases or slang were used, or why certain references made sense in context. The more I read, the more I felt connected to the culture behind the language, and this made learning English even more enjoyable and meaningful. How to make reading a daily habit. Now that you understand why reading is so important, let's talk about how to make it a consistent part of your language learning routine. The good news is, reading doesn't have to be boring or overwhelming. In fact, once you find the right materials, reading can become one of the most enjoyable parts of your day. Start with something you enjoy. The key to making reading a habit is to choose materials that interest you. If you don't like the material you're reading, it will feel like a chore. So start with topics that excite you. If you love cooking, read recipes and cooking blogs in English. If you're into sports, read articles or books about your favorite teams or players. The more you enjoy what you're reading, the more likely you'll be to stick with it. I started with books about my hobbies: travel, photography, and food. Once I felt comfortable with those, I gradually moved on to more challenging materials like novels and newspapers. Choose what feels right for you at your level, and don't be afraid to explore different topics. Start small. If you're just beginning to read in English, don't jump straight into long novels or complex articles. Start with short, easy-to-read materials like children's books, simple news stories, or online blogs. These materials often use simpler language, which makes them easier to understand and less intimidating. As you build your reading skills, you can gradually move on to more difficult texts. But the key is to start small and build your confidence step by step. Remember, reading should be fun, not stressful. Set a reading goal. Setting small, achievable reading goals can help you stay motivated and track your progress. For example, you could aim to read for 10 minutes every day or read one page of a book before bed. You could also challenge yourself to learn 5 new words each time you read. These goals will give you a sense of accomplishment and encourage you to keep going. I set myself small goals when I first started. I aimed to read one short story or article every day, and over time, I gradually increased the amount I read. Breaking reading into manageable chunks makes it easier to stay consistent. Use resources like audiobooks or ebooks. If you find that reading a physical book feels a bit overwhelming, try using audiobooks or ebooks instead. Audiobooks are a great way to practice listening while following along with the text, and ebooks often have built-in dictionaries that allow you to look up unfamiliar words instantly. Audiobooks also allow you to listen to natural speech patterns and accents, which helps with your overall understanding of the language. If you prefer to read, ebooks often allow you to adjust the text size and format, making it easier to read on your phone, tablet, or computer. Plus, many ebooks have features like highlighting and note-taking, which can help you keep track of new words and phrases. Don't be afraid to use a dictionary. When I was learning English, I used to stop every time I encountered a word I didn't know and look it up in a dictionary. This helped me expand my vocabulary quickly and understand the context of the words. But remember, don't interrupt your reading too much. Sometimes it's okay to guess the meaning based on the context and move on. You can always go back and check the word later. The goal is to get the meaning of the text, not to get stuck on individual words. The joy of reading. The best part of reading, for me, is the sense of accomplishment it gives me. Each time I finish a book, article, or even a blog post, I feel like I've learned something new. Not just in terms of vocabulary or grammar, but also about the world, different cultures, and different ways of thinking. Reading is a journey, and each page you turn is a step forward in your language learning adventure. So, I encourage you to make reading a daily habit. Find books, articles, or any material that you enjoy, and start reading. The more you read, the more you'll improve your English skills, and the more you'll enjoy the process. Don't be afraid to take it slow and enjoy the journey. Chapter 5. Writing to Improve Confidence. Welcome to Chapter 5. Now that we've covered listening, practice, and reading, it's time to talk about something that can really boost your confidence when learning English: writing. Writing is one of the most powerful tools for language learners, and it has many benefits that can help you become more comfortable with using English in everyday life. When I first started learning English, I didn't immediately see the value of writing. I was more focused on speaking and understanding spoken English. But as time went on, I realized that writing helped me in ways that nothing else could. It gave me the opportunity to organize my thoughts and apply my vocabulary in a practical way. Writing also helped me improve my grammar, sentence structure, and ability to express myself more clearly. But most importantly, it gave me the confidence to use English in more complex ways. In this chapter, we'll explore why writing is so important for building your confidence in English, how you can start writing regularly, and some simple techniques to improve your writing skills. By the end of this chapter, I hope you'll see writing as an exciting and useful part of your language learning journey. Why writing is important. You might be thinking, why focus on writing when I'm still working on speaking and listening? Well, here's the thing. Writing and speaking are closely connected. If you can write well in English, you're also improving your speaking skills. Writing helps you think in English and gives you the ability to organize your ideas more clearly, which will come in handy when you're speaking too. Let's break down the benefits of writing. It helps you practice grammar and sentence structure. When you write, you get the chance to practice grammar and sentence structure in a more controlled way. Writing allows you to think about how to use tenses, build correct sentences, and place words in the right order. For example, when you speak, you might not always have time to think about the exact grammar rules. But when you write, you can pause, reflect, and make sure that your sentence structure is correct. This helps you internalize the grammar rules so that they become more natural when you speak. I remember when I was learning, I would write simple sentences and focus on using the correct verb tenses. For example, I would write sentences like, "Yesterday I went to the park," and "I have been learning English for 2 years." By practicing these sentences over and over, I began to get more comfortable using these structures in conversation. It builds vocabulary. Writing is also a fantastic way to build your vocabulary. When you write, you actively choose the words you want to use. This encourages you to think about new words and how to incorporate them into your writing. For instance, when I was first learning, I would always have a dictionary nearby. Every time I came across a word I didn't know, I would look it up and try to use it in a sentence. Writing allowed me to experiment with new vocabulary, and helped me remember the words by using them in context. The more you write, the more words you'll add to your vocabulary, and you'll get better at using them in the right context. Over time, these words will become second nature, and you'll be able to incorporate them into both your writing and speaking. It gives you confidence. When you write in English, you can focus on getting your thoughts down without the pressure of having to speak immediately. This can be a huge confidence booster. Writing allows you to express yourself freely and at your own pace, which helps you gain confidence in your ability to communicate. When I first started writing, I was afraid of making mistakes. But I soon realized that mistakes are part of the learning process. Every time I made a mistake, I learned something new. The more I wrote, the more confident I became. Writing gave me the space to make mistakes and correct them, which is an essential part of learning any language. It helps you become more fluent. Writing helps you become more fluent in English because it forces you to put your ideas into words. The more you write, the more you become familiar with how English sentences are formed, how words connect, and how to express ideas clearly. This fluency in writing translates directly into speaking as well. When you're confident in your ability to write, you'll feel more comfortable expressing yourself verbally. Think of writing as a way to practice the foundations of the language, which you can then build upon when you speak. How to start writing every day. By now, I'm sure you're convinced that writing is an essential part of learning English. But how do you actually get started? It's easy to say, I'll write more, but the key is making writing a habit. Here are some practical tips to help you start writing regularly and make it an enjoyable part of your routine. Keep a daily journal. One of the best ways to start writing is to keep a daily journal. It doesn't have to be long, just a few sentences about your day, how you're feeling, or what you did. The goal is to write every day so that writing becomes a habit. When I was learning English, I started keeping a simple journal. Every morning or night, I would write about my plans for the day or what happened during the day. Over time, I noticed that I was writing longer entries, using more complex sentences, and experimenting with new vocabulary. The best part of journaling is that it's personal. No one else has to read it, and it's just for you. This takes away any pressure to be perfect and lets you focus on improving without worrying about making mistakes. Write short stories or descriptions. Another great way to improve your writing is by writing short stories or descriptive paragraphs. This is a fun way to practice using more creative language, and it allows you to experiment with different sentence structures and vocabulary. For example, you can describe a place you visited a person you admire, or an event that happened in your life. You could also try writing short fictional stories. This allows you to stretch your imagination and use new words and phrases in a fun way. Practice writing emails or messages in English. Another easy way to practice writing is to write emails, messages, or even social media posts in English. Try communicating with friends, family, or even language exchange partners in English. You don't have to write long emails. Short messages will help you get comfortable with using English in real communication. Writing messages in English is a practical way to practice the language because it mirrors how we often communicate in everyday life. Plus, it's a low-pressure way to get more comfortable with writing in a natural, conversational style. Use writing prompts. If you don't know what to write about, try using writing prompts. A writing prompt is a short sentence or question that encourages you to write about a particular topic. For example, describe your favorite place, or write about a time you felt happy. Writing prompts are a great way to spark your creativity and get you thinking in English. They push you to write about different topics, which helps you practice vocabulary and sentence structures that you might not use in everyday conversation. Don't worry about perfection. One of the biggest obstacles to writing is the fear of making mistakes. I know it's hard, but try not to worry about being perfect. The point of writing is to practice, and mistakes are part of that process. Over time, you'll get better at identifying your mistakes and fixing them. When I started writing, I made tons of mistakes, especially with grammar and word choice. But every mistake taught me something valuable. So don't let fear hold you back. Just write and focus on improving with each sentence. How to improve your writing skills. Once you've started writing, the next step is improving your writing skills. Here are some tips to help you take your writing to the next level. Read. You're writing out loud. After you write something, read it out loud. This will help you catch any awkward phrasing or mistakes. When you read aloud, you'll be able to hear whether your sentences flow naturally or if something sounds off. This is a great way to identify areas where you can improve. Review and edit. After writing, always review and edit your work. Look for grammar mistakes, spelling errors, or areas where you can improve sentence structure. Editing helps you identify patterns in the mistakes you make, and it's a great way to track your progress. Use writing tools. There are many online tools that can help you with writing, such as grammar checkers and vocabulary builders. I personally used tools like Grammarly when I started writing more seriously. These tools can help you spot mistakes you might have missed and offer suggestions for improvement. Conclusion: writing is an incredibly powerful way to improve your English and build your confidence. It helps you practice grammar, expand your vocabulary, and express yourself clearly. But most importantly, writing gives you the opportunity to experiment with the language and build your confidence over time. Start by writing a little bit every day, whether it's journaling, writing emails, or using writing prompts. And remember, the more you write, the more confident you'll become. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Instead, embrace them as part of the learning process. With each sentence you write, you're getting better and closer to your goal. So, grab your pen, your notebook, or your computer and start writing today. Every word you write is a step forward, and with practice, you'll be amazed at how much your confidence and language skills grow. Chapter 6: Watching English Videos. Welcome to Chapter 6. In this chapter, we're going to talk about an exciting and highly effective way to improve your English skills: watching English videos. Videos offer a dynamic, engaging, and interactive way to immerse yourself in the language, making them an excellent tool for learners of all levels. Whether you're a beginner or already proficient, videos can help you improve your listening, speaking, vocabulary, and even your cultural understanding of English-speaking countries. When I first started learning English, I didn't realize just how much I could learn from watching videos. I thought videos were just for entertainment, but soon I discovered that they were an incredibly powerful learning resource. The best part: you can make watching English videos a fun and enjoyable part of your daily routine. In this chapter, I'm going to explain why watching videos is such an effective way to learn English, how you can get the most out of it, and share some tips on how to incorporate videos into your language learning routine. By the end of this chapter, I hope you'll see videos as an essential tool in your learning journey, and you'll be excited to start watching. Why watching English videos is so powerful. So why exactly are videos such a powerful tool for language learners? Let's break it down. Exposure to natural conversations. One of the main advantages of watching videos is that they expose you to real, natural conversations in English. When we learn from textbooks or formal lessons, the language can sometimes feel artificial or stiff. But when you watch videos, you're hearing how people actually speak. You'll hear how they use slang, idiomatic expressions, contractions, and how they speak in different situations. For example, I used to watch a lot of sitcoms and movies in English when I was learning, and I was amazed at how much I picked up from the natural way people talked. In movies, you'll hear characters say things like, "What's up?" or "I don't know," which are everyday phrases that you might not find in textbooks, but are used frequently in conversation. Watching videos allows you to hear these phrases in context, helping you understand when and how to use them. Listening practice. Listening comprehension is one of the biggest challenges for language learners. It's easy to read a book and understand the words, but it's much harder to understand spoken language, especially when it's fast-paced or full of different accents. Watching English videos gives you the chance to practice listening to the language in real-life contexts. When I was learning, I started with simple videos, like cartoons or children's shows, because they use clear and easy-to-understand language. As I got more comfortable, I moved on to more complex videos like TV shows and movies. The beauty of videos is that they allow you to hear a variety of accents, speeds, and tones, which will make you a more well-rounded listener. You can even adjust the speed of the video if necessary, so you can start slow and gradually increase the difficulty as your skills improve. Visual cues help you understand. One of the most amazing things about videos is that they don't just rely on sound. They also have visual elements that help you understand the meaning of what's being said. For example, if you're watching a video where a character is ordering food at a restaurant, you can see the food and the interaction happening. The visuals provide context, which helps you understand the words and phrases better. When I was learning, I found this incredibly helpful. Even if I didn't understand every word, the visual context helped me guess what was happening. This is especially useful for learning new vocabulary. Seeing the object or action alongside the word reinforces your memory, making it easier to remember. 4. Exposure to different accents and dialects. English is spoken in many parts of the world, and each region has its own accent or dialect. By watching videos, you can expose yourself to different English accents and get used to hearing how English sounds in various countries, such as the United States, the UK, Australia, and many others. For example, when I started watching videos, I struggled to understand British English because I was used to hearing American English. But over time, as I exposed myself to more British shows, I became more comfortable with the accent and its unique vocabulary. The more accents you hear, the better you'll be at understanding the language no matter where you are or who you're speaking to. Learning cultural context. In addition to language, watching videos also helps you understand the culture behind the language. English language films, TV shows and documentaries offer a glimpse into the lifestyle, customs, humor, and traditions of English-speaking countries. Understanding cultural context is crucial because it helps you make sense of certain expressions, jokes, and references that may not be clear otherwise. For example, watching an American sitcom like Friends taught me a lot about American culture. Things like how people hang out with friends, go to coffee shops, or talk about holidays. This cultural knowledge gives you a deeper understanding of how English is used in everyday life. How to get the most out of watching English videos. Now that you understand why watching English videos is so powerful, let's talk about how you can get the most out of this activity. Here are some tips to help you maximize your learning experience. Choose videos that match your level. The key to getting the most out of watching videos is to choose materials that match your current level. If you're a beginner, start with simple videos like children's cartoons, educational videos, or slow-paced movies with clear dialogue. As you progress, you can move on to more complex content like TV shows, movies, and even documentaries. When I was starting, I watched a lot of children's shows like Peppa Pig or Dora the Explorer. They use simple language and clear pronunciation, which helped me get used to the rhythm and flow of English. Once I became more confident, I transitioned to watching popular TV shows like Friends and The Office. Use subtitles wisely. Subtitles are a great tool for learning, but they should be used wisely. If you're a beginner, using subtitles in your native language can help you understand the overall meaning of the video. However, as you improve, try switching to English subtitles. This will help you connect the spoken language with the written form and reinforce your learning. I remember when I first started watching TV shows in English, I used English subtitles. This helped me understand the words while hearing them spoken aloud. Over time, I began to rely less on subtitles and eventually stopped using them altogether. However, don't be afraid to use them when needed. They're a helpful tool that can guide you as you learn. 3. Repeat and rewatch. One of the most powerful strategies when watching English videos is to rewatch the videos you enjoy. Repetition is key when learning a language. By watching the same video multiple times, you'll catch things you missed the first time, and the words and phrases will stick with you more easily. For example, I watched the same episode of Friends several times. Each time, I understood a bit more. After the third or fourth watch, I was able to pick up new vocabulary, understand the jokes, and even recognize the slang. Repetition not only helps you remember new words, but it also helps improve your listening skills and boosts your confidence. Pause and take notes. While watching videos, It's helpful to pause and take notes when you come across new words or phrases. Write down the new vocabulary and try to use it in your own sentences. This active engagement will help you internalize the words and reinforce your memory. For example, if I heard a new phrase like, "take it easy," I would pause the video, write it down, and then try to use it in a conversation later that day. This technique allows you to make connections between the new words and how they're used in context. Engage with the content. Instead of just passively watching the video, engage with it. Try to imitate the way the characters speak. Repeat their lines out loud, paying attention to their intonation and pronunciation. This helps you improve your speaking skills and gives you practice with the rhythm and flow of English. I used to repeat the lines from my favorite TV shows, mimicking the way the actors spoke. It felt fun and natural, and it helped me practice pronunciation and fluency. Where to find great English videos? Now that you know how to make the most out of watching videos, let's talk about where you can find them. Here are some great resources for all levels of English learners. YouTube. YouTube has a wealth of content for English learners. Channels like English Addict with Mr. Duncan, BBC Learning English, and Engvid offer free English lessons through videos. You can also find videos on various topics like travel, cooking, and daily life that match your interests. Netflix. Netflix is a fantastic resource for English learners because it offers a wide variety of TV shows, movies, and documentaries in English. You can use subtitles and adjust the playback speed to suit your learning needs. TED Talks. TED Talks are a great way to hear interesting, thought-provoking content while improving your listening skills. They cover a wide range of topics, and many of the speakers speak clearly and slowly, which is great for learners. Podcasts and audiobooks. While not strictly videos, podcasts and audiobooks are similar and provide a great way to practice your listening skills. They're perfect for learning on the go, whether you're commuting or exercising. Conclusion. Watching English videos is one of the most enjoyable and effective ways to improve your language skills. By exposing yourself to natural conversations, practicing listening, and learning new vocabulary and context, you'll build your confidence and fluency in English. Whether you're watching TV shows, movies, YouTube videos, or documentaries, make sure to engage with the content and use it as an opportunity to learn. So, start watching today. Choose videos that match your level, use subtitles when needed, repeat and take notes, and most importantly, have fun with it. The more you watch, the more you'll learn. Happy watching! Chapter 7. Talking with Others. Welcome to Chapter 7. In this chapter, we're going to dive into one of the most important aspects of learning English: talking with others. No matter how much you study grammar, read books, or listen to English, nothing will help you improve your language skills as much as actually using the language in conversation. Talking with others is where everything you've learned so far comes to life, and it's the best way to practice what you know in real-world situations. When I first started learning English, I was terrified of speaking. I was afraid of making mistakes, afraid of sounding silly, and afraid that others would judge me. But over time, I realized that the only way to get better at speaking is to practice speaking, and the more you practice, the easier it becomes. In fact, speaking is one of the most rewarding parts of the language learning journey because it allows you to truly connect with people and express yourself in ways that reading or writing can't. In this chapter, I'll share why talking with others is so important for improving your English, how to find people to practice with, and how to overcome your fear of speaking. Let's explore how conversation can help you take your language skills to the next level. Why talking with others is crucial for language learning. Before we dive into how you can start speaking English, let's first explore why talking with others is such a crucial part of learning the language. There are several key benefits to regular conversation practice. It helps you practice real-life English. When you talk to others in English, you're practicing real-life English. Conversations are often spontaneous and informal, which is a big difference from the textbook English we study in class. People use slang, idioms, and expressions that aren't typically covered in traditional lessons. For example, you might hear someone say, "It's a piece of cake," when they mean something is easy, or "I'm over the moon," when they're very happy. By having conversations, you're learning the practical language that people use every day. This will help you understand and speak more naturally, instead of relying on textbook language that might sound stiff or overly formal. It builds confidence. One of the biggest challenges when learning a new language is building the confidence to speak it. It's easy to feel self-conscious, especially when you're just starting. But the more you speak, the more confident you become. Each conversation is a chance to improve and get better. I remember when I first started speaking English, I was terrified. I would stutter and get nervous, worried that I was making too many mistakes. But I kept practicing, and with every conversation, I became more comfortable. Eventually, speaking became second nature, and I started to enjoy it. It helps you Improve pronunciation. When you speak English with others, you get immediate feedback on your pronunciation. People can correct you if you're saying a word incorrectly, and they might even point out if you're not stressing the right syllables or using the right tone. This kind of real-time feedback is invaluable for improving your pronunciation and sounding more like a native speaker. For example, when I was learning, I would often practice new words with my language partners. If I mispronounced a word, they would gently correct me, and I would make a note of it to improve for next time. This immediate feedback helped me refine my speaking skills and become more confident. It exposes you to different accents and speech patterns. English is spoken all over the world, and there are many different accents and speech patterns depending on where you are. By talking with people from different countries, you get to hear these accents and get used to the diversity of English. This makes you a more versatile listener and helps you understand a variety of English speakers, whether they're from the US, the UK, Australia, or another English-speaking country. When I first started practicing English, I was mostly exposed to American English, but as I spoke with more people from different countries, I started to understand different accents and slang. It was a bit challenging at first, but it was so rewarding when I could finally understand someone from the UK or Australia without struggling. 5. It helps you think in English. When you talk to others, you don't have time to translate every word in your head. You need to think quickly and respond in the language you're speaking. This helps you think in English, which is the ultimate goal for any language learner. The more you speak, the more your brain gets used to the language, and the quicker you'll be able to form sentences and respond without thinking too much. At first, I was always translating from my native language to English in my head, which made speaking difficult. But after having more conversations, I started to think directly in English. This made my speech flow more naturally, and I didn't need to stop and think about each word I said. How to find people to practice speaking with. Now that we know why talking with others is so beneficial, the next step is finding people to practice with. Fortunately, there are many ways to find language partners and make speaking a regular part of your routine. Language exchange partners. One of the best ways to practice speaking is to find a language exchange partner. A language exchange is when two people help each other learn their native languages. For example, you could practice English with someone who wants to learn your native language. This way, both of you get the opportunity to practice and improve. There are many websites and apps, like Tandem, HelloTalk, and Speaky, that connect language learners from around the world. You can choose your partner based on their native language, and many of these platforms allow you to chat via text, voice messages, or even video calls. I used these platforms when I was learning, and they were a great way to find conversation partners. Join English learning groups. Another great way to practice speaking is by joining English learning groups, either in person or online. Many communities, both local and virtual, have language exchange meetups where people get together to practice different languages. You can also join online forums, social media groups, or language learning platforms like Facebook groups or Reddit, where people meet up for virtual conversations. I found many online communities where learners like me would schedule regular speaking sessions, and we would take turns speaking in English. This helped me practice with people who were also learning, and we could help each other out along the way. Take speaking classes or lessons. If you prefer more structured practice, you can also take speaking classes or lessons with a professional tutor. There are many platforms that offer private lessons with native English speakers, such as Italki, Preply, or Cambly. With these platforms, you can find a teacher who matches your learning style and schedule, and you'll have the opportunity to practice speaking regularly. Speak with friends and family. If you're lucky enough to have friends or family members who speak English, take every opportunity to practice with them. Even if they are not fluent, they can still help you practice speaking. Speaking with someone you're comfortable with can also reduce the pressure and anxiety you may feel when speaking in front of strangers. I remember practicing with my family and friends at first. They were patient with me, and they gave me feedback on my pronunciation and grammar. Speaking with them helped me build confidence before I moved on to speaking with others in more formal settings. Overcoming the fear of speaking. One of the biggest challenges when it comes to speaking is the fear of making mistakes. Many language learners feel embarrassed or self-conscious when they speak, worried that others will judge them. But here's the thing. Everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. Mistakes are part of the learning process, and they are nothing to be ashamed of. When I was learning, I was so afraid of making mistakes that I would freeze up and avoid speaking altogether. But the more I practiced, the more I realized that mistakes are how we learn. Every time I made a mistake, I got one step closer to speaking more fluently. Here are some tips to help you overcome the fear of speaking. Embrace mistakes. Instead of being afraid of making mistakes, embrace them. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn and improve. When you make a mistake, take note of it, learn from it, and move on. The more you speak, the fewer mistakes you'll make, and the more confident you'll become. Start with small conversations. If you're feeling nervous, start with small conversations. You don't have to jump into long discussions right away. Begin by saying hello to people in English, or asking simple questions like, "How are you?" or "What did you do today?" Gradually increase the length and complexity of your conversations as you gain confidence. Focus on communication, not perfection. Remember, the goal is to communicate, not to speak perfectly. As long as you're getting your point across and the other person understands you, that's a win. Don't worry about speaking perfectly every time. The more you focus on communicating effectively, the less pressure you'll feel. Conclusion: talking with others is one of the most important and enjoyable parts of learning English. It helps you practice real-life language, improve your pronunciation, and build confidence. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Every conversation is a chance to get better. Find people to practice with, embrace your mistakes, and enjoy the process of speaking. The more you practice, the more fluent and confident you'll become. So, go out there and start speaking. Find a language exchange partner, join a group, or have a conversation with a friend or family member. The more you speak, the more you'll improve. Happy speaking. Chapter 8: The Importance of Patience. Welcome to Chapter 8. If there's one lesson I've learned through my language learning journey, it's the importance of patience. As much as we'd like to believe that learning English, or any new language, for that matter, can happen overnight, the truth is that language acquisition is a gradual process. It takes time, persistence, and most importantly, patience. When I first started learning English, I was eager to see fast results. I wanted to speak fluently and understand everything as quickly as possible. However, after a few weeks, I found myself frustrated. I wasn't seeing the progress I had hoped for, and at times, I felt like I wasn't improving as quickly as others. It was easy to become discouraged, and I started questioning whether I was doing something wrong. But that's when I realized something important. Learning takes time. It's a journey, not a race. And like any journey, it comes with its challenges and moments of doubt. But those moments are all part of the process. In this chapter, I'm going to talk about why patience is essential in language learning, how to practice patience throughout your journey, and how to overcome moments of frustration. Why patience is key to learning English. Let's start by looking at why patience is so important when learning a language. Many language learners, myself included, get discouraged when they don't see immediate results. It's easy to compare yourself to others and wonder why they seem to be progressing faster than you. But here's the truth. Language learning is unique for each person. Everyone progresses at their own pace, and that's okay. Language learning takes time. When we start learning English, we often want to reach fluency as soon as possible. However, fluency in a language doesn't happen overnight. It's a long-term commitment that involves consistent practice, learning, and application. The process can feel slow at times, and it might feel like you're not making any progress. But every time you practice, you're laying the foundation for your language skills. I remember when I was first starting out, I would study vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation for hours. But I would still feel unsure when trying to speak. It was frustrating. But over time, I realized that these small efforts were building a solid foundation, and that progress would come with patience and practice. Progress is often invisible at first. At the beginning of your language learning journey, progress might feel invisible. You may feel like you're putting in a lot of effort without seeing significant improvement. But here's the thing. Language learning is often like planting a seed. When you plant a seed, you don't immediately see the results. But if you water it and take care of it, eventually it will grow. At first, you might not notice the changes, but over time, you'll realize that your vocabulary has expanded, your grammar is more accurate, and you're able to understand more in conversations. It's a slow process, but it's a process that pays off if you stay patient and persistent. Consistency leads to long-term success. One of the most important aspects of language learning is consistency. You don't need to study English for hours every day to make progress. Even 15 to 30 minutes of consistent practice each day can lead to long-term success. The key is to keep practicing, even on days when you don't feel like it or when progress feels slow. I learned this lesson the hard way. At first, I would study intensely for a few hours, but then take long breaks. This approach led to frustration because I didn't see immediate results. Eventually, I learned that consistent, small efforts over time were far more effective than intense bursts of study. It was this consistency that led to real, long-term progress. How to practice patience during your language learning journey. Now that we understand why patience is essential, let's talk about how to practice patience in a way that keeps you motivated and focused. Learning English can be challenging at times, and there will be moments when you feel frustrated. But with the right mindset, You can overcome these challenges and stay motivated throughout your journey. 1. Set realistic goals. One of the best ways to practice patience is to set realistic, achievable goals. Setting clear, small goals helps you stay focused and gives you something to work towards. These goals don't have to be big, just simple. Things like learning 5 new words a day, completing 1 lesson per week, or practicing speaking for 10 minutes each day. These small, manageable goals will help you feel a sense of accomplishment and keep you motivated. When I started learning English, I set small goals for myself every week. I would aim to learn 5 new words a day or finish a short lesson each week. Achieving these small goals gave me the motivation to keep going, and they helped me build momentum. The key is to set goals that are achievable and to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Celebrate small wins. Patience isn't just about waiting for the big achievements. It's about appreciating the small wins along the way. Every new word you learn, every sentence you can say without hesitation, and every conversation you successfully complete is a victory. These small wins build up over time and contribute to your overall success. For example, I would celebrate when I was able to have a short conversation in English without relying on my notes or dictionary. These moments may seem small, but they were milestones in my learning journey. By celebrating these small wins, I stayed motivated and reminded myself that I was making progress, even when it didn't feel like it. Embrace the learning process. 1. Of the most important aspects of practicing patience is to embrace the learning process. Instead of focusing only on the end goal, becoming fluent in English, try to enjoy the process itself. Learning a language is not just about reaching a white destination. It's about the journey. It's about the excitement of learning new words, the joy of watching a movie in English without subtitles, and the satisfaction of improving every day. When I shifted my focus from the end result to the process itself, I found that I enjoyed learning more. I wasn't constantly stressing over my mistakes or worrying about when I would become fluent. Instead, I embraced each step as an opportunity to learn and grow. Be kind to yourself. One of the most difficult aspects of language learning is the inner critic. We tend to be very hard on ourselves when we don't see fast progress. But it's important to be kind to yourself. Learning a new language is difficult, and there will be moments when you make mistakes or feel like you're not improving. But that's okay. It's all part of the journey. When I started feeling frustrated, I reminded myself that it's okay to make mistakes and that it's okay to not be perfect. I would take breaks when I needed to and come back to my studies with a refreshed mindset. Remember, it's important to be gentle with yourself and acknowledge the effort you're putting in. Stay focused on the bigger picture. Finally, one of the best ways to practice patience is to keep the bigger picture in mind. Learning English is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be highs and lows, and sometimes it will feel like you're not making as much progress as you'd like. But if you keep your eye on the long-term goal, fluency in English, you'll be more motivated to continue, even during the difficult times. I used to get discouraged when I didn't see immediate results, but then I reminded myself of my ultimate goal to be able to communicate freely in English. Every time I had a setback, I would look at the progress I had made and remind myself that it takes time to get where I wanted to be. This long-term perspective helped me stay focused and patient, overcoming moments of frustration. Even with all of these strategies, there will still be moments of frustration. There will be times when you feel stuck or like you're not improving as fast as you'd like. But remember, these moments are completely normal, and they don't mean you're failing. They are part of the process. When I hit a plateau in my learning, I would take a step back and remind myself why I started. I would reframe my mindset to focus on how far I had come rather than how far I still had to go. And when I started to feel frustrated, I would take a break, try something new, or even change my study routine to keep things fresh and exciting. Conclusion: patience is a fundamental part of the language learning journey. It's easy to get frustrated when progress feels slow, but with the right mindset, patience becomes a powerful tool that will keep you motivated and moving forward. Remember, language learning is a process. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Celebrate the small wins, embrace the journey, and be kind to yourself along the way. The more patient you are with yourself, the more enjoyable the process will be, and the sooner you'll see the results of your hard work. So, take a deep breath, trust the process, and keep going. Your efforts will pay off, one step at a time. Chapter 9: Setting Goals and Reviewing Progress. Welcome to Chapter 9. If there's one thing that can keep you motivated and on track during your language learning journey, it's setting clear goals and regularly reviewing your progress. Learning. A new language can sometimes feel overwhelming because there's so much to learn. It's easy to feel lost or unsure of where to start. This is where goal setting comes in. It gives you direction, focus, and a clear path forward. When I first started learning English, I didn't have a solid plan. I just studied random things, hoping something would stick. But it wasn't until I started setting specific, measurable goals that I truly began to see progress. In this chapter, I'm going to walk you through the process of setting effective language learning goals, how to break them down into manageable steps, and how to review your progress so that you stay motivated and continue improving. By the end of this chapter, you'll understand how to set goals that are realistic and achievable, and how to track your growth in a way that keeps you excited about learning. Why setting goals is important. Before we dive into the specifics of how to set goals, let's first talk about why goal setting is so important for language learners. Provides direction and focus. When you're learning a language, it's easy to get distracted. There are so many aspects to focus on: vocabulary, grammar, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, that it can feel like you're pulled in a million different directions. Setting specific goals helps you focus on what you need to work on and prioritize your efforts. For example, without a clear goal, you might spend hours studying vocabulary, but not see any improvement in your speaking skills. But if you set a goal like, I will practice speaking for 10 minutes a day, you now have a clear direction for your efforts. This helps ensure that you are making progress in all areas of language learning, not just one. Keeps you motivated. The journey to fluency can feel long and challenging, especially when progress seems slow. This is where goals come in. They act as milestones along the way that allow you to celebrate small successes. When you achieve a goal, no matter how small, you get a sense of accomplishment, which keeps you motivated to keep going. When I first started learning English, my goal was simple: learn 10 new words every week. At first, it felt like a huge challenge, but as I checked off each word I learned, I gained more confidence and was motivated to keep going. Having these small, achievable goals kept me excited about learning, even on days when I felt discouraged. Measures your progress. It's easy to get discouraged when you feel like you're not making progress, but with goals, you have a way to measure how far you've come. When you set clear goals and track your progress, you can see how much you've learned over time. This is crucial because language learning is a long process, and sometimes it's hard to see the small improvements unless you look back and reflect on them. I remember when I set a goal to learn 100 new words in a month. At first, I wasn't sure if I could do it, but when I checked my progress halfway through, I realized that I had already learned 50 words. Seeing this progress boosted my confidence and helped me stay on track. How to set effective language learning goals. Now that we understand why setting goals is important, let's talk about how to set goals that are clear, achievable, and motivating. Setting goals isn't just about saying, "I want to speak English fluently." While that's a great long-term goal, you need to break it down into smaller, more specific objectives. 1. Make your goals SMART. One of the best ways to set goals is to use the SMART framework. SMART stands for specific. Your goal should be clear and well-defined, measurable. You should be able to track your progress and know when you've achieved your goal. Achievable. Your goal should be realistic and attainable within a certain time frame. Relevant. Your goal should be aligned with your overall language learning objectives. Time-bound. Set a time frame for achieving your goal. For example, instead of saying, "I want to improve my English," a SMART goal would be, "I will learn 10 new words each week and use them in sentences by the end of the week." This goal is specific. 10 new words. Measurable. You can track how many words you've learned. Achievable. It's reasonable to learn 10 words a week. Relevant. Learning new vocabulary is essential for fluency. And time-bound. You have a week to complete it. Break down big goals into smaller steps. If your goal is big, like becoming fluent in English, it's important to break it down into smaller, more manageable steps. By setting smaller goals, you avoid feeling overwhelmed and give yourself a clear path forward. For example, instead of focusing on fluency right away, you might set goals for vocabulary, speaking practice, listening, and reading comprehension. 4. Instance. Goal 1. Learn 100 new words in 1 month. Goal 2. Have one 15-minute conversation in English every week. Goal 3. Read one English article per day for 10 minutes. Each of these smaller goals brings you closer to the larger goal of fluency. The key is to keep breaking down big goals into smaller, specific tasks that you can realistically accomplish. Focus on different areas of language learning. When setting your goals, it's important to balance your focus across different areas of language learning: speaking, listening, reading, writing, vocabulary, and grammar. For example, you might set one goal for listening, another for speaking, and another for vocabulary. This ensures that you're making progress in all areas and helps you become a more well-rounded language learner. Here are some examples of balanced language learning goals. Speaking. I will practice speaking English for 15 minutes every day using language exchange apps. Listening. I will listen to one English podcast every morning during my commute. Reading. I will read one article in English every day from an English news website. Writing. I will write a 200-word journal entry in English every evening. By balancing your goals across different areas, you can improve your overall English skills without neglecting any one area. Reviewing your progress and adjusting your goals. Setting goals is only part of the equation. The other important part is regularly reviewing your progress to see how far you've come and whether your goals are still relevant. Reviewing your progress helps you stay motivated, identify areas for improvement, and adjust your goals if necessary. Track your progress. It's crucial to track your progress to see if you're on the right path. You can keep a simple language learning journal where you record your goals, your progress, and any challenges you've encountered. This will give you a visual representation of how much you've accomplished and help you stay focused. I used to track my goals by keeping a calendar where I would mark off each day that I met my goal. For example, if my goal was to practice speaking for 15 minutes, I would check off that day when I completed it. Looking back at that calendar after a month gave me a great sense of accomplishment and kept me motivated. Celebrate achievements. When you reach a goal, take a moment to celebrate. Even small victories deserve recognition. Celebrating your achievements boosts your motivation and reminds you that you're making progress, no matter how small it may seem. For example, when I reached my goal of learning 100 new words in a month, I treated myself to something special, maybe a nice meal or a movie in English. This celebration gave me the energy to keep going and tackle the next set of goals. Adjust your goals if necessary. Sometimes you may find that a goal you set is no longer relevant or achievable. Life circumstances might change, or you might encounter obstacles that prevent you from achieving a particular goal. That's okay. Don't be afraid to adjust your goals. If a goal feels too difficult, break it down further into smaller, more achievable steps. If it's too easy, make it more challenging to push yourself further. For example, if you find that learning 100 words in a month is too much, you might reduce it to 75 words. Or if you're breezing through your vocabulary practice, you can challenge yourself to learn 150 words instead. The key is to stay flexible and adjust as needed. Conclusion. Setting goals and reviewing your progress is one of the most powerful ways to stay motivated and make consistent progress in your language learning journey. By setting clear, realistic goals, tracking your progress, and celebrating your achievements, you create a roadmap for your success. Regularly reviewing your progress helps you stay focused and allows you to adjust your goals to fit your current level. Remember, the journey to fluency takes time. It's about making progress every day, one small step at a time. So, set your goals, take action, and enjoy the process. Your effort will pay off, and soon you'll look back and be amazed at how far you've come. Chapter 10. Embrace the journey. Welcome to Chapter 10. We've covered many important aspects of learning English so far, from the power of listening and speaking with others to setting goals and practicing patience. But in this final chapter, I want to talk about something that often gets overlooked in the language learning process: embracing the journey. Learning English, or any language, isn't just about reaching a destination. It's not simply about the day you finally speak fluently, or the day you can understand everything in an English movie. While those milestones are incredibly rewarding, the true value of language learning lies in the journey itself, in every small step you take, every challenge you face, and every little victory along the way. In this chapter, I'm going to share why embracing the journey is so important, how you can shift your mindset to enjoy the process, and how doing so can actually accelerate your progress. By the end of this chapter, I hope you'll be inspired to let go of the pressure to get it right and start enjoying every part of your learning experience. Because, let's face it, language learning can be tough, but it's also one of the most joyful, rewarding, and life-changing experiences you'll ever have. Why embrace the journey? You've probably heard people say, it's not the destination, it's the journey. But when it comes to language learning, we often focus so much on the end goal, fluency, that we forget to enjoy the process itself. We get fixated on mastering vocabulary, perfecting our grammar, and reaching that moment when we can speak without thinking. While these goals are important, it's just as important to enjoy the process and celebrate every small achievement along the way. Learning is a lifelong journey. The truth is, language learning never really ends. Even after years of study, you'll continue to encounter new words, phrases, and expressions. You'll discover new accents, dialects, and cultural references. You'll never stop learning, and that's one of the most exciting parts of the journey. When I started learning English, I had a very clear goal in mind. I wanted to speak fluently. But as I progressed, I realized that the real beauty of learning a language lies in the continuous process of discovery. I learned new words, explored new topics, and made new connections. The more I learned, the more I realized how much more there was to discover. If we focus only on the goal of fluency, we risk missing out on all the little things we can learn along the way. The journey itself is full of moments of discovery, and embracing it allows you to enjoy each step. Enjoying the small wins. One of the most powerful ways to stay motivated is to embrace and celebrate the small wins. Each time you learn a new word, complete a grammar exercise, or have a short conversation in English, you are achieving something. These small wins are what propel you forward, and they are just as important as the big milestones. I remember celebrating when I could finally order food in English at a restaurant without hesitation. It wasn't a huge milestone in the grand scheme of things, but it was a big victory for me. It represented all the effort I had put into learning vocabulary, practicing pronunciation, and overcoming my fear of speaking. Every time I hit one of these smaller milestones, I felt a sense of accomplishment that kept me going. Embracing these small victories gives you a sense of progress and reminds you that every step counts. It's not about waiting for fluency to feel accomplished. It's about recognizing and appreciating the progress you make along the way. Letting go of perfectionism. One of the biggest obstacles that many language learners face is the pressure to be perfect. We want to speak flawlessly, understand everything we hear, and write without making any mistakes. But the truth is, perfection is not the goal. Communication is. When I first started speaking English, I was so afraid of making mistakes that I avoided speaking altogether. I wanted everything I said to be perfect. But as time went on, I realized that making mistakes is part of learning. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow, and perfection isn't necessary to communicate effectively. When you embrace the journey, you let go of the need to be perfect and allow yourself to make mistakes without fear. This mindset shift is crucial for progress. The more you allow yourself to make mistakes and learn from them, the faster you'll improve. And the more you enjoy the process, the more natural and effortless language learning will become. 4. It's about the experience, not just the outcome. Learning a language is about more than just reaching a particular level of proficiency. It's about the experience itself, the people you meet, the cultural insights you gain, and the new perspectives you open yourself up to. When you embrace the journey, you start to realize that the joy of learning English isn't just about speaking fluently. It's about experiencing the world in a new way. For example, when I started watching movies in English without subtitles, I realized how much I could understand from just context, body language, and tone of voice. I started picking up cultural references, understanding humor, and recognizing idiomatic expressions. These moments were incredibly rewarding, but they didn't happen overnight. They were part of a journey that took time, practice, and patience. The experience of learning the language, being immersed in it, connecting with others, and seeing the world through the lens of a new language is a huge part of why language learning is so valuable. It's not just about getting to the end goal. It's about enjoying everything along the way. How to embrace the journey. Now that we understand why embracing the journey is so important, let's explore some practical ways to do it. Shift your mindset to enjoy the process. The first step to embracing the journey is to shift your mindset. Instead of focusing solely on the end goal of fluency, try to enjoy the process itself. Appreciate the small steps you're taking each day. When you make a mistake, see it as a learning opportunity, not a failure. When you achieve something, no matter how small, celebrate it. To help with this, I started keeping a language learning journal where I would write down not just my goals, but also my experiences. I would reflect on moments when I made progress, whether it was understanding a new phrase or having a simple conversation in English. Looking back at these entries reminded me that the journey was just as important as the destination. Be curious and explore the language in different ways. One of the best ways to embrace the journey is to stay curious and explore English in different ways. Don't just focus on one aspect of the language. Try reading books, watching movies, listening to podcasts, and even playing games in English. The more variety you have, the more fun and engaging the process will be. I loved watching movies and shows in English because it exposed me to the culture and language in a way that textbooks couldn't. I also tried reading books in English, starting with simple children's books and gradually moving on to more complex novels. This variety kept the process interesting and enjoyable. Surround yourself with English. Surrounding yourself with English in your daily life is another great way to embrace the journey. Whether it's changing the language settings on your phone, listening to English music, or following English language social media accounts, surrounding yourself with English helps you become more comfortable with the language and integrate it into your life. I made it a habit to listen to English podcasts while I was commuting or exercising. This small adjustment made English a part of my daily routine, and it helped me feel more connected to the language. Enjoy the community of learners. Learning a language doesn't have to be a solitary journey. There's a whole community of learners out there, and connecting with others can help you stay motivated and inspired. Join online forums, language exchange groups, or attend local meetups to share your experiences, ask questions, and learn from others. Being part of a community also reminds you that everyone is on the same journey. Everyone has different challenges, but we're all learning together. This can be a great source of support and encouragement. Conclusion. Embracing the journey is the key to staying motivated and enjoying the language learning process. It's not about rushing to the end goal of fluency. It's about appreciating each step along the way, celebrating small wins, and being curious about the language and culture. By focusing on the experience and letting go of the pressure to be perfect, you'll find that language learning becomes a much more enjoyable and rewarding experience. So, take a deep breath, let go of your expectations, and embrace every part of this journey. The more you enjoy the process, the faster and more naturally you'll learn. Language learning is a lifelong adventure, and every step is worth celebrating. Great work today! Every moment you spend practicing brings you closer to mastering your English listening and speaking skills. Remember, progress comes with patience and consistency. If this story inspired you or helped you in your learning journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Easy English Spark channel for more lessons and stories. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep believing in your growth. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining.